you remember me with the
course.
glasses?
Do I remember the Schmo?
Excellent.
The legend? Are you really asking me that?
Just making sure I'm not doing this in character.
The bad guy does not have CTE. The bad guy knew when to tap out.
Excellent. Well, you're on the Schmozone podcast. I really appreciate your time. My co-host, you remember her, Helen?
I've interviewed him once before,
That's
many
right.
years ago.
From a hospital room, Helen, nonetheless. How do you like that, Schmo? I remember Helen and I's first interview. You're wondering if I recognize you without glasses? I got to tell you, I'm a little insulted.
I deeply apologize. You'd be amazed at the amount of people that can't tell the difference. So I just had to clarify just for
By the way, is this a thing? You and Helen, you're sitting a little close on the couch right there. We go. I mean, it's kind of hard to deny this shot, okay? I mean, I don't think we need to say camera. Why can't we say my girlfriend?
My girlfriend, my co-host.
Yeah.
Those nails, those are fire. Hold those nails up.
No.
Oh, those are great.
To get them done. It looks really bad.
I got to tell you, I'm colorblind, and even I can tell that's a great color.
They're actually the same color as the Schmo's logo.
My wife always tells me when I compliment a woman's fingernails that it's creepy and that the woman thinks it's creepy. So I'm sorry. I'm just into fingernails because my wife gets them done every week.
I used to every few weeks until this whole quarantine. Now it's
Helen, can I tell you? So my wife held up her fingers to me 2 days ago, of which I thought looked fantastic. She holds them up, and apparently they're like chipped in places. And she goes, "Look what this pandemic is doing," and she was serious.
I actually feel that same way. I can relate to her. So tell her I understand.
All right.
I appreciate your time. This is episode 9. This is going for the Schmozone podcast. I want to get into it because these are unprecedented times.
We're into it now. We're talking about acrylic.
All right.
Schmo, all right. We're talking about acrylic. You think we're not into it? We're into it, brother. And by the way, you guys aren't social distancing, I must tell you.
Yeah, well, it's just us two, okay? It's just us two. Now, bad guy. Seriously, though, you were able to put on an event this past weekend, Shug 9, and you had this event in Portland, Oregon. Amongst all this chaos, quite frankly, I just got to ask you, how the hell did you pull this off?
Well, we held the event somewhere. I mean, right there, it was submission underground. Okay, listen, it was a little bit tough because, so we called different municipalities. We're calling different cities just on the phone. And they all said the same thing. They go, hey, this isn't really our call. It's a state issue, but here's what the state wants. And so we just kept calling. We go, it's not good enough for us. We want to be welcome. Someone needs to invite us to come. And so we called a city, and the gal that answered the phone said, hey, I actually know exactly who you guys are. My kid trains jiu-jitsu. My son has a purple belt under Michael Chapman. She said, I've been to your events, but here's what needs to happen. And Schmo, there was such incredible separation, as you well know. I mean, everybody has to be in their own room. Everybody has to be in their own area. And that can be very challenging when you have a camera crew and you're doing a live event. So we had to bring in extra cameras, set them up ahead of time, lock them in place on robotics, run a cord out to a trailer that qualified as a separate room, have one director who ran it with his wife so they were comfortable being together. Everybody was separate. We washed the cage top to bottom. I'm talking the stairs, the apron, the surface, the door in between every single round. The only people that were in the same room at the same time was the referee, the doctor, red corner, blue corner. Other than that, everybody was set. I called the fight. I was in a separate location. It was weird. It was very challenging. I feel like you're complimenting me. I'm taking the compliment and I'm bragging to you how hard it was, but it was tough. It was really hard to do. Keep everybody safe and then also be in compliance. But I think we pulled it off. I think it was kind of a special event.
Now, were you required to do any kind of coronavirus testing after the event? Have you followed up with any of the participants to make sure that they are symptom-free? How did the travel and the logistics work out from there?
So as far as them self-quarantine, I mean, everybody's supposed to do that. If you're asking me if I enforced it, no, I didn't enforce it. We had all the forms ahead of time, and everybody had to sign them, and there's things people had to promise to that was written off, and signed off by the doctor. And a self-quarantine is always a recommendation in fairness. But I mean, it's a concern, right? Everything's very weird right now. So you try to follow state laws, then for wherever you are, wherever we were, but then you also try to operate with a level of integrity. And then, Schmo, I got to tell you, when you're talking about pieces of the puzzle, you also then have to try to guess, and this is really hard. I mean, right, you could be the smartest guy in the room. You have to try to guess where it's going to go. So we started out in the Northwest, 250 people. The very first 250 people in a room was the max. That dropped to 50 people, dropped to 10 people, dropped to 8 people. So ultimately, that's why we went with 4. We thought, well, if this keeps dropping down, we need to be ready for it. And that's why we just kept everybody separate.
I think you kind of built that template in case we're in this for the foreseeable future of putting on these live events, these combat sports events. What's the conversation been like with Dana White, with the Fight Pass people on moving forward with this type of planning?
I will tell you, Dana kind of keeps it at an arm distance. He is so slammed right now with trying to pull off 249, April 18th, and all the things that I just mentioned. Every time he gets a plan, somebody pulls the carpet out from under him. He's got to come up with a brand new plan. That's just in the media, right? I mean, that's what he's telling people, but I can tell it's exactly what he's going through. And but he was very happy. I think he took a look at it and he said, you know what? Even when this is all over, even when the crowd comes back, there's certain things about the way that this was produced and presented to the audience that I think you should keep. Schmo, I'll tell you this. I'm not sure the world of TV is ever going to go back to the way we knew it. I think that, and I don't think it's going to stay where we're at now, but I don't think it's ever going to go back. I think it's going to meet in the middle. I think a lot of people are learning, man, there's other ways to do this. I watched The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon last week. I think it was Tuesday. He was doing it from his living room. His kid comes out, like crawls on his shoulders, like during the show. It was this organic moment, but it ended up being great. I just think the world of TV is learning there's other ways to do it. We don't always need the most beautiful stages and production departments. Sometimes a little bit more bare bones still can bring you something very authentic. That's my own opinion, but I'll make that prediction for you now.
A good take.
Yeah, and that is what David or the Schmo has been saying. But Chael, you just mentioned about UFC 249 and kind of what Dana's going through. This morning, Khabib went on his IG Live, kind of gave his perspective and his side. And then, of course, yesterday, Tony spoke to Ariel about it. So if you're Tony Ferguson, what do you do in this situation?
Yeah, so Tony's got to be a reactor, right? I mean, that's part of the sport, and Tony's been on both sides of it. Look, this hurts for Tony to be this close to a world title shot, not to mention one that you've earned, not to mention you earned it 5 times. Don't forget, Tony is the interim world champion who never lost, but somehow is no longer the interim world champion. I mean, it's very unfair in many ways, and so this was his big moment and opportunity. And like anything in life, what goes up must come down. I really feel for Tony right now. I'm hoping he can push through. I'm hoping he competes with somebody. But the bottom line is, I don't know that you can blame Khabib. Helen, I read some of that stuff saying that Khabib went to Russia and hid. One of the things that Khabib talked about on his Instagram is he goes, okay, you guys want me to smuggle myself out of Russia. You want me to get to a location and get locked in a cage with Tony. I'll do it. But tell me this, where do I go? If I wasn't supposed to fly to Russia, where is it you suggest I fly to? There's no venue given. This isn't my fault. And you know what? Even in the simplicity, Khabib makes a very fair argument there.
Yeah, I agree. And what about Conor and kind of him saying that, calling them both chickens or whatnot? And
I loved it. Conor trolled him. What a troll move. Listen, Conor even gave a breakdown. So this fight has been scratched 5 times. It's so many times I've lost track. Conor had to do the math on 2 of them were Tony's fault. 3 of them were Khabib's fault. Therefore, Tony wins 3-2. Look, this is silly. It's ridiculous, but there's nothing else going on. The fact that Conor McGregor was smart enough to insert himself in something that is none of his business and he got headlines and he's the one we're talking about, Conor goes down as the smartest guy in the room for the week.
But he did say back in January when he predicted that someone was going to fall out of the fight that he'd be ready to step up to the plate. Granted, nobody predicted that we'd have a worldwide pandemic. Do you think he burdens a little bit of responsibility stepping up to the plate, or what's his next move from here?
Yeah, well, and fair question, right? I mean, everybody's in this really weird spot. I don't know that Conor is any more willing to go and do this than somebody else would. I mean, it seems that we're all in a little bit of a trying time right now. So, yes, to your point, is Conor being sincere? No. Is Conor trolling, and Conor won, and Conor saved the day, stole the headlines, and has what everybody's talking about? Yes, he's a master. He's a master manipulator. You can be angry about it, or you can appreciate it. I, for one, appreciate what Conor did.
The California State Athletic Commission, they've called off all the fights in May. I know Bellator's postponed. Obviously, that pulls off the UFC San Diego card. Realistically, where can a fight happen in the United States, and when can a fight happen in the United States?
Yeah, so nobody has the answer to that question. And I got to tell you this, Schmo, whenever you try to answer that, and I'm going to try to answer it for you, but here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want my answer to it all be interpreted as how do you skate around a commission's suggestions. That's not at all what we're talking about. Eventually, somebody is going to step forward and go, look, we either think we can do this safely, or we accept that this is the new normal and we're getting on with business. And I will share with you, as a state agency, they got a lot of reasons to not do that. Commissions have liability that a lot of people don't appreciate. Commissions every now and then will break up a fight. They'll go, no, I won't sign off on that because they don't like the records, or they don't think it's a good matchup, or it's safe. People forget how much a commission really does take on and overseeing and regulating this. Commissions are not really given their due. They kind of look like somebody that's in the way at times. That's not true. When commissions say that their job first is safety and they take that serious, that's real. But it's also real when I tell you that there's a certain courage in stepping forward, especially in a weird time, and nobody's in a hurry to be first. That's going to be a domino effect. As soon as somebody comes out, the rest will come into play. But who that first one's going to be, I really couldn't predict for you. And I think if we were to do that fight in the States, I don't think anybody's looking to skirt that. So unless somebody steps forward, which is going to be within the next 2 weeks, I think it's safe to predict it won't be in the States.
Now, Chael, what advice would you give to fighters right now?
In terms of like training, for example, I will tell you this, Helen, I felt a little bit of this myself. I'll use Ed Herman, my teammate, as an example. He's got a fight on the books right now, signed contract 1st of May, and he's kind of smart enough to look at the calendar and go, I don't know if this fight's going to come. And it's very trying for him because as of now, he's moving forward. So he's got to eat the right things. Don't forget, he's got to make weight for the fight. Then he's got to be in level conditioning and in shape. He can't be the one to pull out. You know, it's one of these things where you've got to keep yourself ready. And how do you do that in a safe way? How do you work with your teammates or your coaches, or even if you've got to do home workouts and go in your garage? I will tell you, I'm glad that I am not still competing and that I am faced with that, because one thing that's tough about motivation is when you're uncertain, it can be a little bit hard to get motivated. So athletes right now, even though it's a level playing field, they're not playing a game of physical toughness. Right now, this is a mental drill.
I'll give you one fun question before we let you go.
I'll let you, you know what? I'll let you know if the question's fun. You go ahead and ask the questions. I'll decide what's fun.
All right, that's fair enough. Who's your main and co-main event for UFC 249?
All right, you want to know something? I'll tell you, screw the co-main event. Couldn't care less. Screw the entire card. Couldn't possibly care less. Give me what you promised me. One half of that is Tony Ferguson. If you can't get me Khabib, fine. Things happen, but keep that as intact as you can. Put somebody in there, follow the unified rules, and I will be perfectly happy. This is a misbelief and a misconception that we got to bring all these people together. Bring me in a camera. Put those two guys in there. Make sure the rules are followed. Thank you, F you, bye. And you know what, Schmo? You want to know something, by the way? That question wasn't all that fun. I mean, I enjoyed it. I'm glad that you asked it. As far as fun, I don't know.
But if you're Tony Ferguson...
By the way, pull the shot back a little bit. I'm not done looking at your other hand. Oh, there you go, sweet potato. All right. See, this is why I agreed to the interview, Schmo. It wasn't to sit here and talk to you. Pull it back just a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. Okay. What was the question?
But listen. If you're Tony Ferguson, there's no upside to fighting anybody if that's not named Conor McGregor or Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's already been the interim champion What does he have left to prove?
Okay, I got to tell you now, that's one piece of the pie, but that's not from a competitive mindset. Listen, to be a fighter is a term that is corrupted over my lifetime. It's never been about the punches and kicks. That's a 2020 phenomenon. When I was a little kid growing up, it was about getting up and moving forward when it was tough. I'm well aware that this is a demotion. I'm well aware that this is a heartbreaking move by Tony Ferguson, but he's in shape and he trained for a mission. Tony Ferguson needs to make that walk. He needs to get that experience. It's not about the money, and I understand that the opportunity is greatly less, but when you can't get what you want, you go and get the next best thing. That is a lesson in life. You don't go and hide. A lot of people are hiding right now. I'm not even turning on those people. They might turn out to be smart, but there's another side of society out there, Schmo. There's people that plant their feet, turn around, put their hands up, and say, bring it on.
Damn right. I'm hyped up just hearing
Whoa.
Okay.
What was the question? What were we talking about?
Wait, but do you think that Khabib and Tony will fight in 2020?
Oh.
Yes, I'm bullish on that. I mean, this is the fight that has been cursed. The genius himself, Dana White, said, I will never book this fight again. He went against his own better judgment, booked the fight, and here we are again. You know what? The storyline is too good. It's too good. 5 times up to bat, 5 strikeouts. Hell yes, we're going to try number 6.
Well, it's been fun, man. I can't wait till we get back in person and I can put on the Schmo glasses and we can go back and forth.
Oh, what was the question?
There was no question.
Oh, there you are. I see. All right. Hey, guys, you were fun. Schmo, did I give you enough time? Did I give you what you needed?
You gave us absolutely everything what we needed.
Appreciate you.
We're going to save it for more for another day. Appreciate you.
Thank you both. Kaboom.